Welcome back. This is part 2 of our teapot animation, and so we're going to actually do the animation here. Now, you've had some experience since we've used animating and keyframes in Premiere, and this is very similar. All right, so down near the bottom here, there is your animation window. At the moment, we've got 100 frames. We're running, I believe, at 24 frames per second, so you've got about 4 seconds here, okay? We can change that later, okay, but we'll just sort of deal with what we've got here. So we'll make this animation last for that 4 seconds. What I'm going to do is bring this teapot, let me just make this bigger here. Oops, let's go back, click on this window, that will make this one bigger, and just rotate it a little bit. The whole idea is that the teapot, there we go, will move over, pour the tea, move back, and be set down again. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. So again, there are instructions that you can follow, but I'm just going to sort of go through them here. So first thing is make sure your time is at 0, and then we're going to set the keys. Okay, and so we can do this one that says set key, turns it to red. You are in record mode. Now, at the moment, we're just going to key this guy. So each of these would be keyed separately. I'm going to add a key here. You always have to have a starting key. So at time 0, I want my teapot to be here. I'm going to go back to my 4 windows because I'm going to model in this one. I'm going to come in here. This would probably be the one that I want to use. So what I want to do is get the teapot to come up and then move over. So I'm going to come over a few frames. Let's make sure. I didn't see a keyframe there, so I don't think I had that selected. Let me make sure I got the teapot selected. Add a key. Okay, there we go. So now I've got this tea. Let me just make sure. Okay, start again. There it is. Teapot selected. Set the key. Okay, I'm going to move ahead maybe to about 50. This is my judgment, okay? I am going to lift up the teapot. And I am going to stop it here. Okay, so for the first 15 frames, the teapot's going to go going up. And I can see that happening. If I move this back now, okay, from here to here, it's moving up. Then maybe, I don't know, let's move it over to 35 or so. I'm going to get the teapot moving over horizontally. So I click on that teapot again, move it horizontal. Okay. So now it's roughly above the teapot. I can see from this top view and sort of here. Maybe it's a little bit high. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit too. Then I can just sort of zoom in on this view and see, does it look reasonable? Yeah, I'd say that's reasonable. Okay, so I've got this here. I will keyframe this. So it comes over. Then I'm going to start pouring the tea. So let's rotate it to, let's say, for about 45, so 10 frames there. I'm going to grab the rotation, and I'm just going to rotate this. Now, what I'll notice, perhaps, and this is where it's going to come in, is that maybe I was a little low here. So I'm going to pull that back up. And pull it back a little bit too. So I'm looking here, and it looked like it wasn't quite pouring it in. So I could even go back a little bit more, because it would probably pour something like that. So you just sort of imagine it pouring into the cup. And so I'm going to keyframe here. I'm going to move it ahead a little bit. Now I'm not going to move anything. So I'm going to pour for 60 seconds. So I'm actually going to keep that here. Okay. So between this time and this time, I didn't actually change anything. So it hasn't actually moved. So let's just take a little run here. So I'm going to hit play. Where's my play button? There it is. And just sort of watch. So it comes over, pours. Okay. So I'm at the pouring stage. So let's go back here. So obviously, I had to rotate. I'm going to rotate it away again. So I'm going to rotate it back. Now I can actually deal with that rotation as well. If I'm on the rotation one, right here is that rotation. So I could just set that back to 0, 2 manually. Or I could rotate it on here. Okay, so make sure set the time, set the position, keyframe. And then I'm going to send it back to roughly where it was. I think it must have been at 0, 0. So what I'm going to do is change it back to the move tool. I'm going to set it, I had it 15 seconds to set it down. So I'm going to go to 85 there. I am going to move it. I'm going to just try 0, 0 here. So 0. Yeah, that looks right. 0, 0, it's over there. Okay, keyframe that. And the last thing, okay, move the time, set the position. So I'm going to put this down to 0. Okay, set the key. So time, position, or rotation, whatever you want to change, and then the key. And that's it. So I'm going to run this. So there it starts, comes over, pours the tea, comes back, and goes. Okay, now it repeats over and over again. Okay, but that gives you the idea there. Okay, so again, just sort of slow motion. So the first keyframe says stay on the ground. Then it's lifting up to the second keyframe. So it gets to here. Now it's at its full height. It moves across the screen. So between here and here, it's moving across. It stops, basically. Then it starts the rotation and a little bit of movement to aim it properly. Okay, so that ends the rotation. It stays with that rotation for 10 frames. Okay, so it's pouring there. Then it reverses that rotation. Then it moves back over its original spot and then down to its original position again. Okay, so it's just all that done with keyframes. Okay, now if you've got a problem, right, like if this keyframe wasn't right, you can just click on it, it turns white, and you can press delete. So if I did that, the change is going to be, it will be sort of a movement up and over for that whole duration. You can see it sort of slide across the table and lift up. The computer sort of figures out where it was and where it should be. And then there's the rotation, and then and everything else is the same. I'm going to put Control Z there just to put it back. Okay, but that's what you can do. I think you can also, yeah, you can just shift that over. So again, if it was too fast or too slow, just like in Premiere, you can shift them. Okay. Now, when we do the Rube Goldberg machine, it will be a little bit more complex, but that's the basic idea. Okay. So just make sure that you save this. Now the save here, there's a save tool. Obviously, you'd want to save it. Okay. I'm just going to save mine to this desktop. T animation, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and you can turn that into Edmodo. Right, so try that out. Okay, this is just a start one to get you the idea of keyframing, doing a little bit more with modeling. You know, once you get this done, feel free to play around and try different shapes and see how that works. Try different animations, but it just gives you a good basic start there.